Hey guys, how's it going today? I hope everyone's doing well. So, I just want to show you guys how to remove the crank pulley, the timing cover, and the timing chain, so that way you can replace everything. You know, these timing chains do get worn out, even though they last a long time. They do get worn out and loose. So, I just want to show you guys how to get this sucker off. Now, if you're going to be doing this job exactly like me, here's the parts you're going to need. First off, we have the timing chain. Now, I went ahead and went with the Mopar just so we can eliminate any issues with quality. So there's that. Part number is right there. I think it was roughly $40 to $50, which not a bad price at all for original quality. Second, this is the timing cover set. Now this is going to come with the gasket. This is going to come with the oil pan rubber piece, which I did not use. It's going to come with your timing cover seal. And that's it for this kit. And here you're going to be needing the plastic timing chain. I guess you would call it a guide. It's the little rubber piece that's, this long that slips into the actual timing cover that puts tension on the timing chain. So there's that. This was also like $10, so you can't really beat it. And last but not least, I wasn't thinking I was going to need this at first, but after looking out how worn out the shaft on this was, it had a groove basically worn into it, and the rubber on the actual pulley was starting to crack and get really bad. So I went ahead and did a Harmonic balancer too, roughly around $50. I got this one from O'Reilly's, but there's the Dorman part number. So there's just about everything you're going to need for this job. Real quick, let me just show you guys what I'm talking about here. See how it's getting really cracked and really bad. Mine was also wobbling a little bit. And then here, this groove can actually mess up your seal. So that's why some of the kits you see have, it's called a sleeve and seal, and you're supposed to put a sleeve on there to fix it, but I just went ahead and threw more money at it. Now let's get to it. So you're gonna have to figure out how to get all this off yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory on most. Mine had a clutch fan, so I had to loosen the clutch fan first. And then you have 4 bolts on the shroud. What I do for mine, since my shroud comes off a lot, since I'm always doing upgrades, I just cut the bottom tab off. Boom, boom, because those suckers are really hard to get to. So every time I take my shroud off, I only have to take these 2 bolts out, and the shroud stays perfectly in place. I've done thousands and thousands of miles like that. Never had a problem. So first, let's go ahead and get this sucker out right here. That's a 19 or 3/4. I use my little Milwaukee Impact and I just, boom, loosen that sucker and it came right out. Now let me show you the tool set that I have. So this is what I have here. This puller, crankshaft pulley, and harmonic balancer puller and installer set from Powerbuilt. That's what she looks like. Model number 648616. And here's everything. So what you do is you get this sucker right here. Boy, it's raining outside. I don't give a shit today. So yeah, remove this all the way. And then you see these 3 bolt holes here. You have 3 bolt holes. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to go on there like that with the bolt holes threaded in. I believe it was the 5/16-18 by 2 NCs. Oh boy, it is raining. I got my little umbrella. Okay, so let's get these out. I'm gonna put this sucker on and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna set mine up right there, as you can see. So I got everything lightly in. And then you have a center point. So what you do is you take this, you put that in, but you kind of have to put this in first. So let me get it set up. Okay, so you get that screwed in there, and then you have to put this on once this is just kind of screwed in. And then let's go ahead and get these tight here. 1, 2, 3. So just get your 3/4 inch wrench on there and just lightly turn, and it's going to take quite a few turns to get this sucker off, but just take your time, make sure not to puncture the radiator, and once it starts getting to the end, like you'll see in a second, you'll want to support the actual pulley so it doesn't fall off and hit the radiator. And then once it gets loose like that, you just put the wrench down and kind of wiggle it, and that sucker will come right off. Alright, so here's the harmonic balancer out of the vehicle. As you can see, I had those screws all the way in. They look nice. Let's get to the next part. I went ahead and did this. These are 1/2 inch bolts there for your water pump pulley. Let's go ahead and pop those suckers off. I'm going to have to remove the alternator and the alternator bracket to be able to get full access to this cover. So guys, just a suggestion, if you're working on taking these pulleys off and all these bolts here, make sure you're extra careful, because if you come back and you pop back and you hit this radiator, you will pierce it, and then you're going to be in a whole different another world of trouble. So just go ahead and be extra careful. Okay guys, we made it down to the bare bones. Now we can get everything off. So we have some bolts under here, but I'm going to do those last. So we have these bolts, as you can see. We have a couple different sizes, and those sizes are 5/8 here and 3/8 here on the smaller one. Alright, so that's going to be the size 7/16 for the oil pan bolts that are along the bottom side here. So let's go ahead and get those off. I believe there's 4 of them. Okay, these are the 4 bolts. That's what they look like. They're all the same size, so don't worry about getting them mixed up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now these bolts here, as I've seen, it looks like there's 2 different sizes. So you're going to want to take note of which ones go where. There's this longer screw, which from what I've seen, the only other longer one is almost directly across, so down a little bit. So these 2 seem to be long here, and the rest of them seem to be short. So, and when I was doing my top end rebuild, I actually found that this bolt here was almost all the way backed out and almost fell in and got stuck behind the crank. And now if that would have happened, that would have been really, really bad. Make sure when you put your bolts back in to freaking Loctite those suckers. Just put Loctite on them, because if that bolt were to come out, man, that would be bad. Just imagine that crank spinning and then that bolt getting jammed up behind it. That would be game over. So these 2 big bolts, let me just do this while I'm recording so we can see. Just want to make sure, see if they're the same size. So there, same size. Okay guys, one more little tip. I just pried right here a little bit, and that's initially what broke it loose. I think you can do it on this side over here too, but let's see. Oh, nice. There we go. Got her open. I think it's just a little hard because of the gasket and all the RTV, so just kind of gotta work her loose there. Okay, that's what my cover looks like. She's pretty darn dirty. There's your timing chain, basically tensioner. It just puts tension on it. I have a new one of these. It goes in like that. And then let's take a look at the actual chain. So, I mean, I know there's the tensioner, but I guess we'll have to compare the new one and the old one. But that's, you know, it's quite a bit of play there. Hopefully my sprocket's not worn out, because I do not have a sprocket, or either sprocket. So the next task is going to be cleaning this and finding the lines, getting it timed up. So let me go ahead and wipe the sprockets down so I can find the marks, and then we're going to have to turn the engine clockwise until the marks line up. Okay, see that line and that line? You want to make sure those are lined up, and if you go past each other, like if you miss it, if you go too far, do not go backwards. You're going to have to go around 2 more revolutions and line it up again. So just make sure you're very precise when you do this, and just take your time. And what I did, because when you back this off, it's going to want to go backwards, so I put a 5/8 on the camshaft bolt there, and I held it so that way it wouldn't move the complete assembly backwards. So if you hold that, you can take this bolt off without spinning it backwards. Just a little tip for you guys. All right, so now I'm just going to take my impact with the 5/8, and all I did was just slide it off like that. Super easy. Now let's go ahead and get the surface cleaned up, and we'll get ready to put everything back on. So I got her all cleaned up. I'm going to do one more pass. But man, this must be the original seal, because this sucker's hard to get out. As you can see, you have your lips here, so it needs to come out this side, but there's no gap. So what I'm having to do is I basically bent it down, and now I'm cutting it with my hopes I'll be able to get a screwdriver in there without ruining the casting, and then pry it out and pull it up. Let's see how that works out. All right, and about 10 seconds later, I was able to get that sucker. That's what it looks like. That's where it sits. Now we need to get all that cleaned up. So this is the black piece I'm not going to use. That's for the oil pan, but I already have a good gasket, so I'm just going to disregard that. And as you can see, I got the seal all in there, nice and good. I just used a big socket and a rubber mallet to gently tap it in, and I put some grease around it so that sucker would go in there nice and easy. Okay guys, here we go. Here's everything laid out. I got everything off and mostly cleaned up. As you can see, I might have to take just one more little pass. I got my RTV ready for when we seal this back up here. Everything's clean, everything's wiped down. So now I have my new chain here, and we just got to put everything on so that the marks line up. The mark is right there and right there. So they want the chain to go on as an assembly like this. So put everything on, get your marks lined up, and you know, it's basically only going to go on one way. The key marks here are going to line up here and then here. So there we go. Let's get everything on, and we will get to the next step, which is going to be putting the gasket on, getting I have the gasket maker here because I'm going to do the gasket and then sealant on the gasket just to be extra sure. So I'm going to use this just to make sure the case is all lined up, and then I'll end up doing a new crank pulley. But let's go ahead, make sure the surfaces are clean and lubed up, and let's get this on here. Okay, got them lined up. As you can see, I mean, it looks pretty good, pretty close, I guess. I don't know why there's that slack there. Alright, now that everything's on, put your bolts in, rotate it 2 times, and if you rotate it twice and the marks line back up, then you're all set, and that means she's in time. Alright, got my gasket maker. I'm going to go ahead and set this on the block. I'm going to get this all set up with gasket maker on both sides. I'm going to get all my bolts lined up. And I'm going to get my case set in place, and then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get this pulley on so that we make sure that it's centered properly, and go ahead and just lube this and lube this a little bit here. Alright, let me show you how I'm going to do it. Alright, as you can see, I got my gasket on, and now I'm going to put some RTV on the other side, and then let's get this sucker on. Make sure she's all lined up. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Yes, sir. One mistake I made while installing this timing cover is not putting these bottom 4 bolts in first. When you put these bottom 4 bolts in, it's going to suck the cover down in place. My problem was I couldn't get these bolts in because it wasn't centered. Anyways, these 4 bolts go in first, and it sucks it down into place. And that looks pretty even there, so we're just going to roll with that. The 4 oil pan bolts need to be at 7 foot-pounds. So you got 1 up in there, 2, 3, and 4 right there. 7 foot-pounds. The 5/8 bolts need to be at 16 foot-pounds, so the 2 big ones. And the small ones here need to be at 5 foot-pounds. Now, what I'm going to be doing is replacing the harmonic balancer. Let me show you why. You see this groove right here? Well, it causes some leakage on the seal that'll catch and rip it. Now, they sell these kits. It's called a sleeve and seal, or it comes with a sleeve and seal, and that's what they're talking about. They sell you a seal that goes over it to make it smooth, or you could just buy a new one. You know, because look how worn out this sucker is. And this one is nice and smooth. So we're going to be installing this new one. And just in case you need it, there's the part number. I'm just going to go ahead, put a little grease on the inside and outside, so that way it slips on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this sucker and just kind of get it on really as far as I can. And then I got my tool here, and I'm going to screw this end in. Alright, now that she's screwed in, we're going to go ahead and start turning on this nut here and pushing that sucker in. Okay, and as you can see, she's going on nice and easy. So you're just gonna have to take your time and go on with it until she's all the way set. Okay guys, getting to the final stages here. We're just getting everything back together. I'm sure you know how to put together what you took apart. Just in case you need a reminder: alternator, pulley, water pump pulley. We need to get the belt on. I'll get you guys a belt diagram, and then what I'm gonna do is, before I put everything on, I'm just gonna start it up real quick, make sure everything sounds nice and quiet. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, that's how she goes right there around the crank. Look at that nice pulley too. that sucker's nice. So around the pulley, up and over, down, up and over, boom boom, and boom boom. Okay guys, I got the timing chain all finished up, and it does seem to run much better. It definitely seems a little smoother and has some tighter pickup. That crank is nice and steady, no wobble, so that's a good sign. Everything else seems to be in order, so no complaints. I got everything nice and cleaned up. If you guys want to check out my other channel, it's called the Jeep 4.0 Bro. I'll link it down below. That's basically a channel that I'm going to be dedicating to Jeeps only, because this page is mainly my motorcycle stuff and some car stuff, so I wanted to do just a Jeep page. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you out. Hope y'all have a good one. Peace.